My name is Eugene Abel. I hail from two oil-producing communities, from Nembe in Bayelsa State and from Finima in Rivers State. I'm a Port Harcourt person, born, bred, buttered in Port Harcourt. I attended township school. I'm a product and beneficiary of the public school system. So I attended township school. I attended Okrika Grammar School, which was what township school was government. Grammar School was government, even though it was established by the missionaries. Yeah, and I attended University of Port Harcourt, which also was a government public school. Like I just mentioned, like for me, I always try to remind people that there's a point in the 50s, Nigerians believed that their problem were the British. That once the British left and there was money, don't forget that oil had just been found in 52 and that they will be able to replicate London in Nigeria. Then we had just one university college in Ibadan, no TV station, and very few roads, very few telephone lines, but they were working. And today, the reverse is the case. You have hundreds of kilometers of road, more money than you ever had, but you don't have the quality of the things you had as at that time. If I take you back to township school, as a child growing up, immediately after the war, the Red Cross and all those agencies that were trying to rehabilitate people ensured that milk was served in school. Milk and there's another thing, it was maize or something, but just to ensure, to fight the scourge of kwashiorkor and make sure our nutritional level was standard. Cleanliness was a big deal. Growing up was very exciting. We were extroverts because you could go from point to point. You could walk from your house through the back doors without coming onto the street and walk like 10 streets. Life was interesting. Unlike what the children of today suffer, they're introverts, not because they choose to, but because they're on their electrical, either iPads or either palms or phones or watching television. We were playing ball, rain ball, monkey post, bolly. We're picking mangoes and trontro. Today you can even hardly find a tree that has fruits in the city of Port Harcourt. What you have now is a concrete jungle. What this tells you is the absence of organization. Now by the time I got to Okrika Grammar School, you had about 1,500 students, and the principal practically knew everybody's name. And we didn't have a fence, but discipline was high up there. It was a bit high-handed, but things were being done properly. And if I bring back my childhood, the community catered for the child, in the sense that if your parents were not talking to a particular neighbor, if that neighbor sees you on the road, that neighbor will stop you, and if the neighbor thinks you're in the wrong place at the right time, the neighbor will stop and ask you, why are you there? And take you either back to school or back home. And you know the consequences of that. 1, you disobeyed your parents to be at the wrong place. 2, you are now forcing your parents to go and say thank you to somebody they don't talk to. So you imagine the things that will happen to you after that. So it was wonderful. Life was simple, life was organized, and life was more interesting. So I feel very sorry for the younger people of these days. In every facet, why could you walk 10 streets without coming to the main road? Because the roads were clean, the backyards were clean, they were planned, and that's why it was called a garden city 104 or 5 years ago. It was called a garden city because a man called Lord Lugard and his team decided that let's replicate an English suburb here while we're evacuating coal. They could have not that bothered. They could have just done their GRA and left that. But they also, even the houses that were built for the workers, which you find from Agri Lagos, Takoradi, Accra, and Freetown, Bator Street. All those houses were houses for workers who built the railway and the seaport. But they made them orderly. They created a town. And it's something that's very popular in Port Harcourt Township. You hear of the fields, number 1 field, number 2 field, number 3 field. So if you say you're a Port Harcourt boy, you should know those fields where they're situated. Those were to ensure that children had places to play, open, green spaces to play. But the secondary school system was so efficient and so nice in the sense that they made sure there was a level playing field. In between it, they introduced a comprehensive secondary school system, whereby you had, they taught you skills, either in welding, in craftsmanship, and cookery and so on. That even started from secondary school. So in township school, by the time you get to primary 5 and 6, every Thursday you must go walk in 2 lines, the girls on one line, the guys on one line. You walk all the way down to Creek Road to approved school. Where you get there, they had all these facilities there. You had a line of cookers, you had carpentry workshops and so on. So those schools that didn't have, the primary schools did them in turn. So we go there and you took up a vocational skill. For me, I love women, so I went for catering. So today when I tell people I was in the market yesterday and I cooked, they say, you cook? I say, I love cooking. Our educational system, they made sure we learned a little bit of everything in primary school. There was something called nature studies. There was something called civic. All sorts, including cookery. We did all sorts. So you're able to hold your own at every point in time. And at the end of the day, today we know that once your foundation is faulty at that primary school stage, it affects the mind. That's what we see everywhere. So the things we see today, we invested in them. We have invested in mediocrity as a nation, so we reap the benefits. Yes. And we think they can hide, we can gloss over it under politics, and we're wasting time, we're heading towards a collapse, and it will happen. So taking you back to secondary school, the same standards were applied in secondary school. That whereby if you were suspended, you could not change schools. Even if you went to Sokoto, they will ask for a reference letter from the school where you came from, why you left the school. So it was not easy for you to say you will not serve the punishment or the sanctions and you just change school. So standards were maintained. Unlike what obtains today, if you suspend a child today, the parents say, David, let me take your school fees to give to somebody else. Even the people are happy to take that school fees. So what do you expect to get in such a nation? You get trash. So we had standards. We didn't have money. We didn't have air conditioners in our rooms, but there were standards. And those standards are applied on things began to fall apart. Common entrance was a big deal. It was a big deal that you could go and sit for your standard 6 exam and pass it. First school leaving certificate. Those of your mates who didn't pass entrance will be hiding indoors, avoiding you for a while because they'll be very uncomfortable. Because whenever the parents say, see your mate, see Eugene don't go secondary school, you stay there. Look at your corner, they'll just slap you, and to even slap you to the corner. I was a victim of it when corruption started creeping into the system. Township school, it was fun. And then behind Township school is Marine Base today. It used to be called IDA. It used to be a place for those with infectious diseases like leprosy. It was a hilly place. It was down the slope and very quiet. First of all, when we resumed after the war, that was 1970, me for a child, normally you're supposed to put your hand over your head, and if your hand does not reach your ear, they don't admit you. But I was fortunate to be admitted. Mrs. Amadi was our principal there, the late Mrs. Amadi. Late Mrs. Taria was my teacher. Guess what? I was in Form 1A. We had, no class was more than 50 children. So before we were shared to classes, they made us stand in lines, hands on your neighbor's shoulders placed, meaning you create space for yourself and you keep that. Today I do it on stage and people laugh. Then they now broke the lines. I think according to 50, I don't know the exact numbers. When they separated those lines, after they identified the lines that would be sufficient for township school, the other lines, they would just point a teacher, take this Banham, take this St. Mary's, take this St. Cyprian's, take this. That's how they started moving people. And also they factored in closeness of the residence of the children to those primary schools. But then they believe every child in the Port Harcourt metropolis, walking distance from any point to point, not more than 1 hour. So any child could do it. So that happened. That was quite a significant thing that happened. They made sure you knew what your culture was. So even though I was a Nembe and a boy partly from Finima, if we were wearing our traditional attire, as a man or woman, because of township school, I could tell if you were an Ogoni man, you were an Ikore man, or you were a riverine person. Or let me break it down, if you were an upland person or you were a riverine person. For the upland people, the kind of hat you wore mattered. Then for the women, the way you wore your wrapper mattered. And we were taught those basic things then. Well, we also were exposed to the traditional dance displayed then. We knew the different masquerade themes like Ofrema, Oki. Our teachers used to play them. So we knew those different mascots. So you didn't need to go to the village to do it, because Children's Day, you must play that. You don't have to be in the troop itself. You must belong to something. Either you were a Boy Scout or a Sea Scout. The girls were either Brownies or Girl Scouts, yeah. So you had to belong to something which kept you busy. So you knew how to do your ropes and your sign signals and so on. Yeah, so there were things to keep the mind busy. Then the break time was a key thing, and after school play was key. It was lovely. Yes, because you had different forms of games going on. The girls played Oga, they played squares. While the guys played Tron, they played Bolu. I know a lot of young people don't know what Bolu is. We had Monkey Post. You had the full aside where 22 people would play, but the fields were too big for us then, so it was more of Monkey Post and Bolu. Bolu was interesting. So that's what for games and for sports. And we were encouraged to do sports. Schools had to have competition days where you had to compete, because don't forget that the primary schools then used to provide the junior competitors. We had junior, intermediate, and senior. Yeah, even then. And also remember that some senior people had returned to primary school because of what the Civil War had disrupted their education. But sports was an integral, it was a big deal. Let me tell you how much of a big deal that sports was then. Imagine that time somebody bought you an Adidas t-shirt. You wear it every day. It was a big deal. You could go to parties with that, even to church. Everybody would be admiring. Just an Adidas jersey without any club insignia on it. That's how big it was. Then the biggest of all then was the River State jersey, River State tracksuit, and the Nigerian, the green, white, green. They worship you. So, we had we had role models, people we could look up to. Yeah, so I remember in table tennis then in primary school, we had people like Aboy Rock. His real name is in Kim, which I came to know. He's in Bayelsa Sports Council now. We had people IKZ them, and we had people in different areas of sports when you're at primary school level. But I was in township school, so we're competing against other schools. And we don't forget that major primary schools were St. Andrews in Diop, Benatka, St. Cyprian's. They're all missionary schools. We had those schools then. So sports was important, culture was important, civic was important. How? I remember when Gowon visited Port Harcourt. If your parents didn't allow you to go to school that day, you die. But all of us were ready. I remember I was in my blue shorts, white shirts, with my blue. Port Harcourt school had this blue on our white pocket so you could differentiate. Everybody had the Nigerian flag. And it was in this old Mercedes-Benz 200, waving. Children were lined up. In front of your school, they made sure they passed through. He went through all the schools there, most of them. You'll be gisting it. We saw Gowon and his wife. So it was a big deal. You had the sense of love. When you're singing your national anthem, you were singing it and shouting it. That was my primary school life, yeah. Those were very formative years. Remember that those who had planned Port Harcourt had provided playing fields for the public where children could exert themselves. While in secondary school, you were programmed to either go through the academic part or go through the vocational part with S75 and so on. At Form 3, if you didn't pass, you were asked to do more of vocational things where you were taught how to handle lathe machines and drilling machines and things like that. But sports was an integral part of it, which kept people very busy. We had two major competitions in Port Harcourt. In River State, then it was called John Chidia Cup. And John Chidia was a Lebanese man whose family is still here. And there was the NTC Cup. NTC was Nigerian Tobacco Company. These competitions were secondary school football competitions. They were tougher than the World Cup. It was like war. But every boy, if you thought you were mattered in River State, you needed to play at those competitions. I wasn't too much into football. I was into hockey, basketball, volleyball. I played all of them to competitive level. But even that, we had the River State Sports Festival. It was a massive deal. First of all, you had to survive the local government sports before you came to the state festival where you needed to compete effectively, where the likes of Ifeanyi Sekbo, the present MD of Heritage Bank, was one of my major opponents because they played for Okrika. From Okrika Grammar School, the likes of Richard Obokiri, who played for the Green national team, came out from there. From the GVT school, the government vocational schools in Port Harcourt, the likes of Peter Rufai came out, Benji Ziokudem and the rest of them, Hamilton Green. There are lots of boys and girls There was provision for junior, for intermediate, and for senior. If you didn't make the sports festival, our school was closing. And if you didn't have any event, you must make sure you were in the supporters team. If not, you were saying that we used to call it waste pipe, like you didn't matter. But it kept us very engaged. It kept us engaged socially. It kept us fit because the trend in C school, government C school then was boxing. They were good, they were exceptional. Boxing and sailing. I went into judo. Like badminton, what couldn't I do? We played everything and we competed. Unlike today, where sports festivals, mercenaries are hired to play sports festivals. Now, immediately after every sports festival, River State Sports Festival, you find that every nook and cranny, children are playing those games that they watched. Or do you want to talk about the traditional wrestling contest between Hippo and Ferebo, where you see people from everywhere going to Amraba Stadium to watch that wrestling match? It was a big deal. That's why I needed to talk about these things. John Chida was a private individual, but that competition brought out a lot of talent. And because you were playing from local government, from your street corner to local government to state, for you to qualify for state, and you were camped, there were not much benefits, but you were proud to wear those colors, that you had your complete jersey and your boots, either to play football or to play hockey. It was massive. Don't forget, on the social part of it, the raining clothes then, only you could not afford them. Like there was a shirt that was a silk shirt that was called Julienne. Your Julienne shirt, if you try buy it, means that you thief money to buy them. Yeah. And if you had it, people are queuing up to wear it. After you wear it this Saturday, another person wants to wear it for the next Saturday. And you give him because he has the shoes stiletto which you don't have, or he has the sunglasses called Babarusa the other man has. So you queue up, and when you're wearing the shirt, make sure you don't dance too much so that you don't tear the shirt. Because people are watching you. People are watching you, yeah. Secondary school was quite interesting, quite strong formative years. I got into Uniport in 1982 because I lost 1 year. My result didn't come out, and even though I had results already in Form 4, which I paid privately, me and my friends, we secretly raised money and paid for GC and sat for GC. So when the results came out, we had like 4 credits, but we could not tell our families, because if you tell them, first question, where did you get money? Number 2, why did you fail? Why didn't you get 5 credits? Are you sure you passed your main exam? So when the main exams, we did WAEC, the school certificate exam, the results didn't come. So I had to go to do IGMB in School of Basic Studies in Port Harcourt. I was there when eventually my name was found that I'd passed JAMB, and I was admitted to read Political Science and Administration at University of Port Harcourt. It was wonderful being there. First time I got inspired that I must go to university was one of the times I went to Scripture Union to College of Science and Technology. I went there for that meeting. Not all of us joined Scripture Union because you use it to escape punishment and labor work that Sunday. So, and it means you're traveling out of campus. Got there, Christy Bature was performing, and we were in the amphitheater. Immediately you drive into College of Science and Technology. If Joseph, you knew you were in a university. I said, all of us were saying, Jesus, yeah, this place is fine. This place I must go to. Everybody said we must go to university. This UST that people are looking at was lovely. We decided we all go to university. So, and when we now, because of that, we were inspired to go and see what Uniport looked like. University of Port Harcourt. Wow. It was another story altogether. So when we got there, University of Port Harcourt, in case you're wondering, and you watch University of Port Harcourt, I go to bed by 8 o'clock. The porter comes and knocks gently. He has to be careful to knock gently on my door and say, can I come in? My room, we're 3 in my room, 2 junior students and 1 senior student. They're all single beds, no double bunk. And he comes in and says, sorry, I just want to confirm if your room has been swept, if they made your bed, if your bedspread was changed, and if they left tissue paper. You say yes, you just grunt, yeah, it's okay. And he now goes further to say, please kindly be reminded that we will be fumigating at the end of the month and mop your room. So you know you'll be inconvenienced. We're going to sequence it, but your hall will be inconvenienced a bit. You say, okay, we know. Meanwhile, they have kept a typewritten notice. It's on the wall and it's here, it's there for you to see. So when people ask me, that's University of Port Harcourt. And when it comes to academics, University of Port Harcourt, we were taught by the best. Those who wrote the textbooks, the likes of late Professor Claudake, the likes of late Professor Nkena Zimra, the likes of late Olarotimi. That's where Nollywood started from University of Port Harcourt. The Nollywood of Nigeria started from University of Port Harcourt. Professor Claudake is the greatest thing that has happened to political economy worldwide. His books are published internationally. None like him after him. Likes of Badre, Professor Enikwo, and the rest of them. And Tom Taiwo. And Tom Taiwo was the youngest of them. Tom Taiwo was teaching us political economy. He comes into the class, bushy hair, big, massive afro, ankle-length boots with his jeans, horn-rimmed glasses, and he asks you, so I've told you whenever I'm teaching, I don't want to see any textbooks. I want you to concentrate and listen to me. What textbook do you have there? You say Wealth of Nation Advancement. He will tell you, choose a chapter. He will recite the chapter for you. So are you satisfied? Can you just close that bloody book and put it under your desk? When women wear gold, it's not for men. It's for their fellow women to see. When women carry big handbags, it's for their fellow women to see. But when they wear tight-fitting dresses or sexy dresses, for the men to see. Those times when you were sick, when you had those attacks of malaria, yesterday I was just reminiscing. I just treated malaria, and I just said, now, just take kind of walk up and down. Because when you were sick, it's quinine now. First of all, they'll purge you with castor oil. If they don't add some salt to it, or give you herb tea, then they will now pump you quinine that will be itching you all over the place. Who are you? You take your temperature will be hitting 70, 80. Yeah, for 3, 4, 7 days, you will not be normal. So imagine how many children died there. Now we just drink 2 tablets, we're bouncing. Some people even go as far as taking alcohol. No. So the women were those who catered for you. And I heard I was quite sickly as a baby. And so the women, strong women. My father was trained by his mom because his father left for America and later settled in Gold Coast with the crew madam. Yeah, so his mother brought him up. So my grandmother, who retired as a house officer in Presidential Hotel. See, there are women, strong women. I met women, or Mrs. Insa, who was like the hub for all the Bani women. So even when my parents broke up, my mother went to stay with her. Yeah, strong women. Don't forget, everything was starting from scratch. Our fathers were trained to be civil servants. So they were the people doing the buying and selling, going around. They would go and find the food. Salt was a big deal. They would get the salt water and boil it till you get salt. So many things. So you started experiencing women. Most of the stories about devil and tortoise were told to me by my aunties and my cousins. Some they told you to scare you. Some so that you will not misbehave. Some they told you to intimidate you. Depending on who was giving you those stories. How tortoise lose hand, how tortoise get sense, how tortoise do that. Your aunties, the men, your uncles won't have time for that conversation. They carried you, they stayed with you. So me and women who have come a very, very long way. And even the minor abuses I suffered sexually, I think, came from women too. Yeah. So I think if I can write a book about that, about what love and romance and crush. Fashion was a big thing. After Woodstock in 1970, that massive rock festival, the hippie movement came into being. So Afro was in vogue. So everybody wanted to grow Afro. So, but everybody could not afford the Wella product, Wella. But so local versions of it started coming up. So you see Hot Pigs and things like that. They were entered in the platform shoes. I know that those periods, high life music was on the front burner. That's when we had songs like Sweet Mother and so on. No Condition is Permanent. I will remember the artist then. Why am I saying this? Then there were other things that started creeping in, whereby that had to do with esoteric bodies. We would send a letter. Receiving letters was a big deal. So you could write to all those addresses that say, get rich, India. You write and things like that. And there were the local versions where people who said they were northerners, they were marabouts, that they sell charms that some of them were called touch and follow. That if you wear this ring, if you touch this girl, the girl will follow anything you tell her to do, she will do. So I didn't know one of my friends had invested in one of those rings. I think we were in primary 4 or so then. And this day after school, you have these girls, just like them, But you really didn't know what you were, but you liked them. But you can't tell them that you liked them because it was a sin to say it. It was a sin until we even left secondary school for you to mention it, that you like a girl. So this particular afternoon, the girl was waiting for, I think, what was her name? I forget, Yetunde or so. Yetunde. She was waiting for the father's driver to come and pick her. And this is my friend, Francis, now called my other friend, Tony. Francis said he had bought something. I said, what is that? He said, touch and follow that. Let us see how it will work. I said, touch what? To follow what? He said he will touch Yetunde. Yetunde will follow him. I didn't understand to follow him to where or what for. So I said, okay, let's watch you touch Yetunde. So school was a bit getting isolated then because kids were leaving. So he knew the driver comes a bit late. So he now walked up to that. I just said, excuse me, I want to tell you something. And walked with her with some distance and touched her. I think that was the instruction they would have given, say, touch her and say, follow me. So he said, just, we were watching from a distance. So he touched her and said, follow me. So she looked at him, said, follow me. She looked at him. Yetunde looked at him again. The third touch he wanted to do, touch and follow me, he received a very dirty slap. And we scampered. The next day, he had to bribe us with his lunch so that we would not release the gist. So it was years later when we were getting to secondary school that we now realized what touch and follow was. So there were all sorts of things, all sorts of introductions that were happening. So as concerning crush, so those were initial things. Then every Thursday, you had to be in Port Harcourt Club. Tuesday and Thursday. Reason is this, you go early, the bus, all of you children, those who were members. If you were not a member, you join. I used to join my cousins then. So we'll go to Port Harcourt Club. But if you misbehave, you won't go. So you make sure 6 p.m. Monday, breaking Tuesday, you don't misbehave and Tuesday so that you don't miss that Port Harcourt Club session. You go there, they take you there about 4 p.m. You swim till about 6. 6, you must be out of the pool. Then you go and watch cartoons like Zorro, Popeye, Tom and Jerry. Those guys have been with us for ages, man. And very few, but it was a big deal for us. And then Port Harcourt Club was serene, massive rock, big pitch. Lovely expatriates everywhere. As you are approaching the club, you are not smelling of monosu, but chips, and chicken, lovely aroma. Whatever savings you made from working, doing chores, you could buy your comics, Marvel comics. Like that last week I was telling somebody, people are enjoying the products of our generation. Stan Lee is the creator. So I can tell you the history of Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Iron Man, all of Spider-Man is even a little, and there was competition between DC Comics and Marvel Comics. So today they've been able to translate those visions into real movies. Then it was massive.